Hey Hodies, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom and thank you so much for clicking on this video. Well, I'll tell you the concept in a moment, but if you happen to be new to my channel, hi, welcome. My channel is all about loving my makeup collection as it currently is, while being cynical and critical of new makeup releases, and I try to just enjoy my collection first before inviting new things into it. I do occasionally do reviews and meta-size where sometimes that makes sense for me, but ultimately I want my makeup collection to feel like it belongs to me and not like me and my audience. So what I like, I keep. What I don't, I just pass on. And that's what we do here. So if this kind of content sounds good to you, I'd love to have you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. And I'm also on patreon.com if you would like to support me there. There's no pressure to. I'm just so happy that you are here. And I also have merch if you would like to check that out down below. I need to make some like summer versions of my merch because a lot of it's sweatshirts. And we are heading into the summer in the northern hemisphere here, and I know that's like not everyone's gig, but if you live in Australia, check it out. What other countries are heading into winter? I could ask Siri, but I'm not going to. Here's the deal. The last time I did my makeup, before I did my makeup, the last time I did my makeup, 2 makeups ago, 407 makeups ago. Let me try this again. The second to last time I've done my makeup. I don't even know if that makes sense. But before the previous video that I posted on Friday, I was going through my makeup drawer and I clocked 2 things in my drawer that I haven't touched in a very long time. And I do this video occasionally on my channel just to touch base. Now, the last time I got rid of, I think most of it. I got rid of the Merit Great Skin. I got rid of the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. I think I got rid of like one more thing, or maybe I threw away a mascara that had been aging. And then I kept the Gucci palette to continue to play with. And then I clocked and I was like, do I have to do this video again? And I do. So some of the stuff I have, I'm going to put on my face for the last time. I am going to like be decluttering some things within this video, but it's not like an overall declutter. We're not doing like that. It's just like some things I noticed, and I'll tell you why I'm getting rid of them. When I'm doing that portion of my face, I might not actually be applying that to that part of my face today, but I will acknowledge it. Let's get into it. Let me start with my eyes. So I'm just gonna add some eyeshadow primer before we get rolling here. I feel like I have some energy. So I'm filming this on Friday. So my plan is to film when I can, and then also edit when I can to try to keep up the pace at which I was going, which I would like to get back to. But if it's unreasonable for me to do that for the next couple of weeks, then it might be what it is. I was trying to think of concepts when I was away, and so I have a good concept. It might come out at the end of the month, but we'll see. That one's gonna require, the big one's gonna require some work. It is a big video. It's a good concept, but it's a big video. It is 90 degrees in Pittsburgh today. I have the air conditioning on, so it will kick on and off. But what I tell you, normally when it gets this hot, I also need a fan going. So I will probably continue just like sweating throughout this video. Either let me have a fan on, which I don't think many of you would like. I know a lot of people have auditory sensitivities to that kind of thing. So we're not going to do it, but I'm going to sweat and be uncomfortable. And it's just me suffering for my art, okay? You're a long-time viewer of my channel. Think of a palette you haven't seen me use in some time. And I'll give you even more of a clue. It's not a Pat McGrath palette. And actually, I do touch my Pat McGrath palettes a little more than I feel like I let on my channel. I do use them for my personal use. I reach for them more, but it's not like I still don't reach for those the most. Did you say this? Because I don't know the last time that I used it. I don't know that I have used this year, and it is June. This is, for those of you who don't know what I'm holding up, this is the industrial palette from Isamaya. For any of those of you who might have, which is like most of you, I guess at this point, for those of you who missed it or didn't go back, there's now 4,000 of you. I think the time that I posted the videos about this, I had like about 1,000 subscribers, like a little bit over. So there are 3,000 of you who have never seen me. Well, you may have never seen me hold this up because anyway, this isn't about me tracking progress, but there's a lot of you that may not even know that I own this palette. So let's talk about it. Last summer, I was really excited about the brand Isamaya. Very excited about it. I thought all of the stuff that was coming out was pretty cool. It felt like it had a vision. Very excited about it. And I do feel that both the Industrial Collection and the Wild West, or whatever it was actually called, collection, had a vision. I was not as into the Wild West, so I didn't purchase anything from it, but I was excited about the brand overall. And I was like, you know, I'm gonna keep using my industrial stuff and wait for the next release. Well, the next release was penis lipsticks, and I was like, okay, I think I'm calling it on this one. On top of the volunteerism situation that happened with Isamaya. Also, the volunteerism thing happened right before the launch of the penis lipsticks, and so it was just kind of like, oh, kind of disappointment, and then also more disappointment. And so then I think that my feelings about all of it were like yucky. And so then I just like didn't want to reach for this. But if you recall, I really liked this palette last year. And I think it was my number 2 purchase that I bought last year. The thing that came in first place was the Glow Lust from Auric, which was, the way I did my ranking was that it had to be something I tried for the first time in the year, not something that was necessarily released in that year. So if you're not familiar with this color story, here's what it looks like. What I would like to say is that if you have seen this palette but never seen someone use it, or seen it in a video, the textures in it are much more alluring when I've seen other people use them and like myself using it rather than seeing the imagery. I think the imagery on Isamaya's website is very flat and it's like really hard to get into it. But this shade right here is like the best shade in here, but like there are very like interesting textures going on here. 10 formulas across the 14 shades. I'm now just realizing that I haven't taken my allergy medicine today. Really just want to play with it again. I haven't touched down on this palette in a while. I'm not quite sure if it's like on the chopping block as much as the one from Gucci, but I could see a world in where maybe it is. Where maybe that is the case. With all the reasons I listed before, those are like, that's like the main reason that this hasn't seen much of a presence on my channel. But like one of the weird things that happens whenever you're a creator, whatever you end up loving the most, that you're like using the most on your channel, tends to like translate into what you end up like enjoying the most in your free time too. Another unfortunate thing for me is like I don't always have time for like makeup playtime in my like everyday life. So a lot of the time I'm putting on makeup to film and I'm not really putting on makeup for fun as much. I don't really put on makeup for work. I work from home. I'm actually not like, I don't have to like be on calls. I just haven't thought about it in some time either. But the other thing is like I've boasted and bragged and said like this is the first palette that I feel like I like all the shades enough where I felt like I could like, you know, pan it, and then it just escaped my memory. It's interesting because there are things that have come before this palette that I still think of quite fondly. And I think another interesting thing to talk about, and this is a good video to talk about it, is I'm not using like palettes like I used to. And it's not even like I've switched that with single shades, which I do. And I've talked about this in my last video where I have those Shine by SD singles that they did with Riley of Seeking Shifts. If I'm pulling out like an indie shadow to play with, it's always one of those. It's like always one of those because I just love them so much. And I have other beautiful indie eyeshadows I could show some love to, but those are the ones that are always on my mind and I don't really forget about them. And then what I end up pulling out, if I do end up pulling up an eyeshadow palette to like combine them with, I end up pulling out like the Hindash palette or my Viseart Pro Matte Grand Pro 1X, and that's what I mix them up with. And sometimes I'll layer them with some other shimmery shadows, but like I have been, the sweat is starting. The thing is, my lighting situation, they're not even that hot. It's just the airflow not moving around when it's warm. It's not like hot in my house. We have the air conditioning on, but like I also there's only one vent in the room that I'm in, and it is behind doors that I have closed because that is where the air conditioner like unit lives. Whenever I'm filming, I just don't get a lot of air. And this is just YouTuber problems that I think I can't remember. Some of these were really sheer. No, I do wanna, let's play with some lime. But I don't often make it, when I'm thinking about what I'm gonna do on my eyes, I'm not really making it to my eyeshadow drawer very much anymore, like my drawer of eyeshadow palettes. I would like to also be fair to me. At the end of last year, I did a pretty decent job editing it down in a very real way. I like tried to really cut out the riffraff, and here's the thing, I don't miss anything that I got rid of. In fact, I really couldn't even tell you what I got rid of at this point. And that's not to like say if I happened to have decluttered like maybe one of your favorite palettes that's like not good, but like my declutter was valid. The only thing that I could think of off the top of my head that I decluttered, and it's not even something that I have like questions about, it's just like I do recall decluttering the Retro Glam palette from Natasha Denona, and that was a good idea. And then I'm gonna go into this like blue shifty topper. I'm gonna put that in the inner corner. So now when I open my eyeshadow drawer, I really kind of go, what is the point of these? And so I have a lot of single eyeshadows, and I would say that this year, out of many of the years, now that I decluttered a lot of my Natasha Denona palettes, the only palette that I kept in full tact was the gold palette, because it's like, if I had an ideal color story, it's that one. I'm now gonna take that shade that I said is my favorite, this like sparkly textured holographic black. I'm just gonna put it on this part of my eye, so right on top of the matte black, also blending it into the green. I felt like the green was like sitting on top of the matte cream black instead of like kind of becoming one with, and I just think that it needed a little bit of something. And then I think I might want to go in, I'm gonna go in with this green is definitely, I remember it not being as pigmented. I'm gonna take it and go like kind of on the outskirts here and just, yeah, make the shape a little bit bigger without adding too much more of that really, really vibrant green. So I do like to do BYO palettes too, and so that's something I would like to get more into the second half of the year. I feel like a couple ways about it. I don't feel like I'm really good at that type of content, and it stresses me out a little bit. I'm not gifted at it, and I feel like when I watch people like Lauren May Beauty or watching Seeking Shifts on her YouTube channel, or my friend Ivy, also known as Face Forward, I feel like I don't have like the eye for it. So what's really interesting is what I am essentially doing is like BYO palette, but just like picking the star of the show, so like the lid shade, and then like going backwards and then picking mattes out of something that's much more simple. And I think that's actually a great way to get into indie eyeshadows. Instead of like trying to build your own color story, like get a palette of really solid mattes if you feel like you need mattes to incorporate, and then buy some really pretty standout shades. Let's reflect on how I'm feeling after using the Isamaya palette. I still love it. I still love it. I really thought that my outcome might be a little bit different. This is right up my alley. So if you happen to be new here, I love a grungy green moment, and like this provides me with that quite a bit. In my last video, I did mention that I'm gonna do a BYO of my own Yucca palette, which I am gonna do. I filmed this video before I bought it. I just would like for you all to know I filmed this video before I even bought it. So I didn't know, but now I have it. Egg on my face. So stay tuned for that. It's interesting because it's the only eyeshadow palette, and I have reviewed some new palettes this year, and I've reviewed some new to me palettes this year. None of them have given me that feeling of that, like, do I want that? You know, in a very real way. Let me zoom you in so you can get like a closer look at like what we did here. Lots of sparkle, not a palette for the timid. That's for sure. Still fallout, it's fine. I just accept that I have glitter in places that maybe I didn't intend them to be, and places that God also didn't intend glitter to be. And famously, God invented glitter. Next up, it would be a primer. I do a pretty good job at only keeping the primers that I like. So I'm just gonna use my the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. The next thing I'm gonna use is the Lit Up Highlight Stick from West Atelier. Now, I am gonna just put this as like a second primer on my cheeks to add more glow. I really rarely pick this over other highlighters in my collection. I'm just kind of like choosing to do something that I do with Glow Lust, but then if I end up, I don't know, it's like, it almost seems to me that maybe no one needs makeup, right? No one needs makeup. I always like it when I use it, and I think it's like really pretty, but it is like a more natural situation that I'm usually going for. And that's a lot, by the way, but I'm kind of just using it as a glowy base for what's going on top of it for an effect. That's glass skin, by the way. That's what I would consider glass skin. This is something that's like up on the chopping block. I don't use it a lot. I don't think about it a lot. It's something that like really sparks it's not sparking a lot of joy. And so I think that, you know, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing, right? I used this again and I was like, I like that. I enjoyed what happened when I used that. We're keeping it. I used this and I was like, I'm trying to justify keeping it for the justifying to keep it. And I'm sure I can find a person who would love this so much more than me. And that person is going to get it and enjoy it. I've done this before and it's really pretty, but I like Auric Glow Lust more than that. Auric Glow Lust sparks joy. When I use it, I feel the same way that I use, like whenever I just use this, I feel that way about it. And that's how I want to feel about my makeup. I've mentioned this on my channel before, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit more because someone asked for a whole video on it, and I don't know that I can provide a whole video on it because I don't have the same rules for other categories that I do for foundation products. I try to limit myself in what I keep in my makeup collection to 4. So if I happen to test a new foundation and it really wows me and I want to keep it, if I already have 4 foundations in my collection, then one of them needs to be released. So then I have to make a tough decision about whether one of the things I already invited in, does it get to, should I just keep that and then pass on the thing that I think is new, but like that I think is great, but is new to me and I like don't have all of my thoughts figured out about it? Do I invite the new thing in and let go of the older thing? This is something that still hasn't been invited. It's still in my testing drawer because the purpose of my testing drawer, I need more than like a week's time. Even if I was applying the things for like a week straight, the most important part about inviting something into my makeup collection is, do I feel like I'm grabbing for it organically after my initial like forced testing of it to get my head around it, if that makes sense. So like how often am I like reaching into it, reaching for it organically? And I think a really good example of seeing it successfully happen is if you watch my Victoria Beckham review. One of the reasons I like a lot of those things, and I know that I like a lot of things, is because I was reaching for them over stuff that had been in my collection for a long time that I thought I liked a lot. With 4 months of me privately testing them without like talking about it on my channel, I was like given the grace and space to be like, what are these things, what are the things that I keep coming back to without the pressure of feeling like I need to like review it in time. So that's what the testing drawer is for, whenever something's in there. But when I think about the 4 foundations, I like to have one that has more coverage. That's not what I typically use. I like to have one on hand that can give me a more full glam look because sometimes I do want that. Typically it's if for an evening situation where I'm like, I would like to look full glam, when I know that the lighting at the place I'm going to is going to like appreciate a full glam moment. So that's one of the things that I like to keep on hand. I also like to keep something that I feel like when I'm going out for a brunch. So light coverage, something that's really easy to throw on, particularly things that I feel like I can put on with my fingers, is like what I try to keep like something like that. And that's where this kind of comes into play because I bought this thinking that it might overtake the Ritual Defeat Luminous 3-Drop Foundation. This is the lab sample. It's not the real release. I already did a review of the real release. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me, but it does seem to be working for people with different skin types than me. So that's great. I thought this might take its place. I also bought this. I was interested in the Chanel water tint, the water, whatever the Chanel version of this is. I was like interested in it. That comes in like 3 shades and then this comes in like more. It is like pretty sheer. It definitely obviously still has pigment. Like you can see that it's like definitely has more coverage. And even the 3-drop foundation sample, lab sample release. Every time I put this on at first, I think, not this. And I think whenever I first apply it, and I've received comments that people think I'm matching myself too light. I'm fair. Like, I'm very fair. You have to understand that, like, for some reason, right around this part of my neck, there's like this part of my skin is for some reason a deeper skin tone, and it is also a lot more yellow. But when you look at my shoulder compared to my face, when I'm showing my body to the people, it's like often these parts of my body that is like what I'm showing off. So if I choose to match my neck, then my face matches my neck, which is cool, but then it doesn't match like what might be showing. So like I do a lot of like peep showing with my shoulders and like parts of my chest, which are like much fairer than the part around my my neck. So right now I'm wearing a shirt that like cuts off that particular portion of my neck that has like, which is a little bit darker, which is a little bit more yellow. When I first put this on, I'm always like really nervous that I think that the color looks crazy. But once it like sits on my skin for a second, it becomes more one. But this definitely has, I guess, more coverage than I was expecting. I just used one pump and I like put it in my hands and then pressed it into my skin. I don't know, it's a weird product. The thing is, I just haven't had a lot of occasions where if I'm putting on makeup, it's like this style of product that I'm reaching for. And that also goes for like the same reasons I would reach for this would be like the same reasons I would reach for this. I've just been very busy with like other things in life, like the moves and whatever. So I just like haven't really been reaching for it. What is actually happening is when I did my review of the new 3-drop foundation, I did a lot of comparisons to this because there are people who are going to be very interested. Like, if you really liked this or if you really hated this, is it different? And so I held on to it. But when I used it for the purposes of that video, which I'm glad I still had it to like compare because it still performed relatively the same, the consistency of it really isn't the same. So I think it's time for me to pass on this. It has a 12-month shelf life. It's past its 12-month shelf life. And it's just like thick. It was really oily when I first got it. And it's like this thick, and it's kind of coming out more like a foundation than it used to, meaning that it has like a thicker consistency to it. And I think that it doesn't smell any different because it smells like frankincense. So it's like, that's just kind of what it smells like. But I think it's just time for this to get, unfortunately, thrown away. But I did really enjoy this while I had it. I don't know that that automatically means that this gets invited into my makeup collection. And I am also now realizing that I didn't finish my thought about the kind of foundations. I like the Surratt Dewdrop foundation, and that kind of that's my favorite foundation. So it's like kind of always has one of the 4 spots. Like, I don't think I'm gonna give that up. I've repurchased it. I've also requested it get sent to me in PR now that I have like a bit of a relationship with Surratt. So it's like, it's a mainstay foundation, and something has to be better than that to like for me to even consider kicking that out of its spot. To me, that's like the perfect foundation. It's also good for evening whenever I'm not looking for as much coverage. Maybe I'm having a much better skin day, but it's really good at blurring. And so that's like the spot that it takes up. It's like perfect, like just perfect for that kind of thing. Actually, I think right now, with removing the 3-drop foundation, I'm down to 2. So I have the Haus Labs, and this is more of my like higher coverage. It's like not even that high coverage, but it's like, for me, it's like high coverage foundation because like just based on my preferences, I do like prefer a light. And so these are the 2 that I keep in my drawer. Oh, no, that's not true. I have 3. The Merit also kind of fulfills, I have the Merit Perfecting Complexion Stick, also kind of fulfills what this did. I'm almost done with the Merit Perfecting Complexion Stick. I don't have that much further to go. Coming back to this product, I don't know that I have like made up my mind on it. I like it. I don't think I like love it. However, keep in mind that when I tried this, I was like, I don't know what's happening. But then I fell in love with it after a few months of regular use because I started using it. I got it like in springtime and I like didn't really care for it. And then throughout the summer and into early fall, I was using it a lot and I really liked it. And so I'm wondering if that could happen for this. I think my skin looks really good. Obviously here we have the extra shine, but like it's a good finish. It's a good finish. It's like wet. It's like wet looking. You have to be into that. What I come to is that I think this retails for like $50+. I don't know that I like it $50+. And that's really what it is. It's just like, so like, I don't know that I would like recommend it. And I didn't pay full price for this either. I got it was on sale and I like stacked a code, one of my friend's promo codes. And I think it's worth the maybe close, like a little under $30 that I paid for it. But I would not say, I still think, and I haven't used it in a couple years now, the Glossier Skin Tint I still think is what I would prefer over this. I just like don't have it right now. I'm happy to have used it again today to like see it on my skin. I think it looks good. It's like, it has like the glow that I want. It just like doesn't have like the blurring properties that I want from this kind of complexion product. We'll do a roundup at the end of like what's staying, what's going, what I think I need to like use a couple more times to be like yes or no. What's happening? This is a big deal. Unlike the foundations, I like keep one concealer. I don't use a lot of concealer. So I try really hard not to like have more than one. If you missed it, I used to work for Sephora. I got a lot of gratis through Sephora. And there are like a handful of things that you end up getting a lot of, or you used to. I'm speaking of the time frame at which I worked there. I got a lot of skincare foundations, concealers, and mascaras over the years. Those were the things that I think I saw the most. So when I started my channel, the very first declutter I did when I was like purposefully doing this, so I think it was the going from 2021 into 2022. I think it was like at the beginning of the year. It was after I did this big project on my channel where I tried to use every piece of makeup at least once in the month of December. I really fell in love with the Giorgio Armani concealer. And then after that project, I was like, why bother with anything else? This is the Luminous Silk Concealer. So I recommended this to my friend Kackie of Kackie Reviews Beauty, and she did not get on with it. But I stand by that it is a very good product. I think that there is a lot of overlap in what Kackie and I like, but when it comes to something that has to do with our skin type and it's too polarizing, it doesn't work for us one way or the other. So Kackie has been really enjoying the 3-drop foundation that Ritual de Fille released recently, like the real version of it. It looked like it didn't become one with my skin whenever I wore it. I have oily skin, Kackie has dry skin, so I think that's where we see a lot of like, if we find something that comes in the middle, I think we agree on it. But I actually never found this to be that matte, and Kackie found it to be very matte. But I always had really good luck with it. And of the concealers I had at the time, whenever I was decluttering a bunch, it was the best one. Now, I can't like, I've just been using it for a couple of years, and it always like looks good. I do think the performance of it is starting to decline a bit. And the reason I feel that way is it's starting to crease pretty poorly, like pretty like a lot underneath my eye. Not like a lot, but like it's creasing more than it definitely used to, because I remember thinking that it always performed the best under my eyes of the concealers that I had in rotation whenever I had all those concealers that I had from Gratis that I was trying to sort my way through. When I think about it, I think it's important to keep in mind now at this point, I quit working at Sephora in 2021 in January. And so I've had this at least and since then. The shelf life on this is 6 months. Like I probably had it for like 6 months to a year before I was even done working at Sephora. So this product is probably around 3 years old. And I feel like when I was working at Sephora, so I'm just like talking my way through this because I feel like I don't have like a relationship with concealers like I have with foundations and other things as much. When you work for Sephora and you're getting all of this stuff and you get a lot of newness, especially when it comes to complexion, so you can like talk about it with clients. It's like you never really have time to pick your favorite because I feel like you're trying a lot of new things. And I think that's also something that happens whenever you're in the beauty space on the platform, or if you're even someone who like buys a lot of makeup and it's like one of your hobbies is to like try makeup. Whenever we have all this new, it's hard to like land on something because you're not like always coming back to something unless you like absolutely know it's your favorite. But when I think of even like the foundations that I used to turn back to, it'd be like of the new foundations, whichever one I liked the most would be like the one that would wear the most until there was another foundation that I liked more than the other, like when the next new foundation that I liked more than the new foundation that I liked last time, if that makes sense. So it's just like I feel like I never really got time and space to like land on something that was truly mine. So I do really like this. I think mine is just like past the point of its prime, and I probably shouldn't even be using it on my face. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but you can tell like the top half is like certainly like a different color than the bottom half of the tube, and that's probably not good. I can't really tell that it doesn't feel like a different consistency, but again, it's been a couple years, and I probably opened it and then used it once or twice, and then I really started using it at the end of 2021. So it's just like it's past its prime. And what I am inviting in as my concealer is the Givenchy Skin Caring Concealer. I really like this. I don't know why I can't wrap my head around like saying with my full chest that like this is a really good concealer, which I have said. It's a really great concealer. I felt like the hype around this bothered me so much. And I compared it to whenever it was released, like the Tarte Shape Tape. Like the feeling of whenever Tarte Shape Tape came out. But it wasn't like the same age group, right? Like, well, it is. You know, it's my age range. Tarte Shape Tape was like advertised to my age range whenever I was younger. And now that I'm older, it felt like this was like had the same energy around it. And I felt like I follow a lot of people who do beauty content on Instagram, but a lot of the people that I follow on Instagram that do beauty content aren't reviewing makeup. They are, but they do a lot of looks, right? So they're not they're not always like buying new complexion. And a lot of the times, the people I follow on Instagram, they get a lot of indie eyeshadows either in PR or they're buying it to review on their Instagrams. Like, that's what they do. They're like people who like to swatch, get really into the nitty gritty of the shifts and stuff. That's what I follow on Instagram. But whenever this was released, I saw some of those people feeling like they needed to rush out and buy it. And I was like, it's just concealer. And what I say to you, it's just a really good concealer. But it doesn't mean you need to like stop using whatever you're using if you like it. Because I felt like drop everything, forget about your old favorite concealer. This is like your new favorite concealer. Is it my new favorite concealer? Yes. But my previous concealer, my previous favorite concealer it's expired. And so it's time to invite something new in. And this is it. She's earned her seat at the table, Solange style. This is something that I know I'm getting rid of because I haven't touched it since I reviewed it. This is the Victoria Beckham Cheeky Posh. I have the shade Playground. If you missed it, if you weren't here when I reviewed Victoria Beckham Beauty, I was testing it from November until I posted it, my review of it in March. And when I was reviewing it, basically my feeling on the Cheeky Posh blushes is that they're just fine. There's like nothing exciting about them. There's nothing revolutionary about them. They're like a fine product. And at the time, that was the review I gave it, and that's like still how I feel about it. But guess what I haven't used? I was like, this feels more like a little bit of a summery color, so maybe I'm not really feeling it in the winter. And I have not touched it since. Kackie recently did a video where she did like blushes, like these beigey blushes, and I feel like this is like something that would fit into that category. And it is like a really pretty shade. It's like, I have the shade Mimi from West Atelier, and West Atelier is like considered to be warm, but I feel like it lands more neutral than this. There are just so many other blushes that I'm going to reach for before I reach for this, because I just think the formula is okay. The shade is pretty, but I like the effect of something like Inner Glow from Kierra Weiss more than this, and I own Inner Glow and I use it more than this because I used it more than never since since I reviewed Victoria Beckham's makeup brand. Falls right into my blush preferences. I love orangey blushes. If I decided that I was going to keep this, it would just languish in my collection even further. And I have a feeling, just like the Westman Atelier highlighter, if I pass this on now, whoever gets it, whoever receives it from me as a gift, is gonna like it a lot more than me, and maybe love on it a little bit more than me. So I'm just gonna like let them do that. I'm gonna contour and bronze with these two products off camera. These are not, I only have a handful. I have 3 bronzers, and I only have 1 cream contour, and I have 1 powder contour. So these are not things that there's like anything like, they're not sitting around languishing in my collection right now. So I'll be back and that will be done. Okay, so while I was off camera, I contoured with the Fenty Cheeks Out bronzer in Amber. I used the Healthy Glow bronzer from Chanel, and I did my usual powder routine. So the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush brightening and the regular airbrush powder, and then also the Chantecaille Perfect Blur. I then sprayed my face with Fix Plus, and then on my eyes I added some of the Victoria Beckham Satin Cajole Liner in Ash, and I also used the YSL Lash Clash as my mascara. I have a couple more things to finish off, and one of them is this is kind of like an overarching theme, not like and I'm not getting rid of any of them, but I really love the Ritual de Fille highlighters. I like the Rare Light Luminizers, I like the Metamorphic highlighters, I even like the Alchemist. But I have found myself just like not reaching for them very much anymore, and I've been like much more into, weirdly, either powder highlight or the Charlotte Tilbury Highlight Wanton Spotlight. So I just wanted to pull these out. This is the shade Phosphine, so I'm just gonna tap that on. I know I don't really need it today because I have on the Lit Up highlight stick from Westman Atelier. I'm not someone who believes in there's really like too much highlight. I just haven't really been reaching for them very often. I'm not concerned because I do like always find myself back to them, and I feel like I play with them a lot more in the summertime for whatever reason, because they're just like a lot more fun whenever like the sun's really getting its chance to do its work on them. Ooh, my cheek glossy. Also, I did not intend on going this hard on the bronzer. In fact, I'm just gonna, sorry, I just like fixed my bronzer a little bit. I accidentally picked up too much on the brush, and then I ended up going like way darker. So I just applied a little concealer lightly to a brush, and I just like tapped it on top of what we had going on. I wasn't using sparingly. And then the final thing, which is another thing that is just like I haven't used it in some time, which is just weird, is my lipstick. And that is a Royal Scandal from Gucci, a mainstay in my life. I've been really doing a lot of more like pink and coral leaning looks recently, and this shade doesn't really lend itself to that, but this Gurky eyeshadow look, it really lends itself to. So that was more of like a, I just want to put you on my face, and we haven't befriended each other in quite some time. I would just want to run through everything one more time with you that we used today and like where it's going and what's happening to it. The industrial palette sticking around. This fantasy fulfilled. I still really like it. I'm now mad at myself that I kept looking at it and going, I don't want to use you, I don't want to use you, because I do. In fact, 20 use you. Is it the most summertimey eyeshadow palette? No, but it was released in the middle of summer last year, so it's a summer palette. It was released as, it's a summer palette. I actually don't love the way my skin looks, even after powder, because sometimes I will allow the blurring to come from my powders exclusively. I don't know. I just feel like this isn't doing it for me in any kind of way. And I know that some people use this as a primer, so I might give it a try as a primer, but I don't need another primer. So I'm thinking that this will probably get passed on as well. But we are going to depart with lab sample of the 3-drop foundation. It's time, it's expired. Same thing with the Luminous Silk. It was nice to wear it one more time. I really like it. I might come back to it at some point, but I now have a concealer that's like twice the size of this one. Oh no, there's actually more in the Luminous Silk. So this will be around for the next 3 years, probably. I'm gonna pass on the Westman Atelier Lit Up Highlight Stick in Nectar. It served me well, but I just didn't reach for it enough for it to warrant a spot in my collection. And I'm also passing on the Victoria Beckham Cheeky Posh in Playground. It's a fine formula. Honestly, it's not even a formula that I think is like worth for you to explore. The shades aren't particularly alluring or interesting. And I don't think the formula, like, it's just like not that great. I would buy another Westman Atelier blush before I would buy another Victoria Beckham blush. And then 2 things that are staying that I just haven't used in a while is a Ritual Defy highlighter. I like all of them. And Gucci's A Royal Scandal lipstick. A beautiful baby poop color on me. And I love that. So that wraps up the video for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. A little bit decluttering, a little bit of remembering why we kept something around in the first place. Both things can happen, and it did today. And I'm feeling cute, I'm feeling gorgeous, I'm feeling stunning. Anyway, if you are new to my channel, I would love to have you subscribe. In fact, if you don't subscribe this month, it's homophobia. It's transphobia. I don't make the rules, except I do. Anyway, I would love to have you subscribe if this content vibes with you. I'm also on Patreon, again, if you would like to support me there. No pressure to, it's just there as an additional support. But I did say pay me, and that's a way to pay me. No, but I'm just joking. Watching, commenting, that's all very fabulous. Make sure you give this a like before you leave it. It helps me out. It's a free and easy way to do that. And then that's that. I'm gonna ask you, since it's Pride Month, well, you can buy my merch, and that's supporting a queer person. If you buy merch from another queer artist, or buy art from another queer artist, or in any capacity, and it's going directly to that queer person, I think you should do that. Don't buy corporate pride stuff. If you want to donate to an organization, you can just do that. You do not need a material good in return for your act of kindness. This isn't Tom's in 2012. In fact, if you want to donate to one of my favorite charities, you can donate to Sisters Pittsburgh. I will leave their information down in the description box below. They help BIPOC trans people in Pittsburgh with housing, finding jobs, etc. Black trans women are some of the most in danger people right now, but trans people in general are the most in danger in the United States currently, with many bills passing at a rapid pace throughout the country. It is more important than ever that if you are an ally, if you want to be considered an ally, to put your money and your time where your mouth is and use your mouth for the better good of trans people. If you see something happening and you don't say anything, you're culpable too, honey. Just remember that this Pride Month. I appreciate you all so much for watching. I will see you in a video very soon. Remember to follow your hote, and you will find me. Bye-bye. Friends. Friends.